Happy Monday, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group. And again, it is Monday, the 21st. So a couple more days till we have a holiday. And then, of course, we'll have a couple shortened weeks, right, with New Year's as well coming up. So we're getting to the end of the year. This was a pretty interesting day, in my opinion, because, we really hadn't had a day where, we kind of came in and there was some volatility overnight, which was attributed to, what's going on in Europe. But, one of the things that I wanted to see too, and was kind of watching for a little bit, I was taking some profits and some things that had some momentum this morning, right off the bat. But whether or not like we were going to see, the buy the dip, the traditional buy the dip on this, and we certainly did. If you look at today's performance, the SPY only down 40 basis points for the day. Overnight was down, well over I think around 2.5% last night. Q's also finished, just fractionally lower. They actually came in for the day and, kind of gave a double bottom for the day, from what I saw, right? We came in and tested the lows of the day, and nice bounce, and stalled a little bit there, around 330 for the overall market, but still, the amount of momentum in some of these small cap names, we'll go into a couple of those. A lot of that was spurred on the Apple news. It's just pretty crazy. I mean, it reminds you of a couple different things every time someone comes in and says that they're going to start an electric vehicle, whether it's a couple of years away. There is a lot of momentum in this space still. And we're hearing about from, the new administration about charging stations and so forth. So, you know, this theme with, things like solar and things like clean energy, this has been a trend that's been going on for a while, right? If you look at the solar ETF, for example, right, this is something that I got into and have been in and involved in for a while. So this is, not exactly the beginning of a trend, but perhaps the dips continue to get bought. I mean, this was one that I took advantage of about 2 weeks ago and put this solar ETF on as a swing trade, and this worked out well. So I think that's kind of what you want to just pay attention to, and it's kind of good to illustrate, how many times the solar ETF has had dips, right? And it's a good lesson because I seem to get question after question about names that have, gone up pretty decently and saying, hey, would you add a position here? No, I would wait for, when these things like this, kind of come in and consolidate and then start to work their way out of the consolidation. That's the bread and butter for me. And, we've certainly had a lot of those things occur, a lot of opportunities, and not just in solar, but clearly, the clean energy and solar, which were the best, by far and away the best performers last week, they continue to chug higher. So those groups, we'll go, like I said, I'll go over a few names in here, but I mean, up another 3.7% for the solar ETF. The clean energy ETF up about 2.2%. Tesla was a little bit weak on this Apple announcement, right? And that's the whole thing with this too, right? If you've been waiting to get into Tesla for whatever reason, give it some time to kind of consolidate a little bit, right? The market that we're in, we're getting, swing up, consolidate, swing up. So, that's just the way that this market has been functioning. So, a little bit of weakness today. Keep in mind, like, you have to kind of look at where Tesla was too when this thing closed, right? It was a crazy close on Friday at 695 because a bunch of shares had to be closed at a particular level. They decided to close it at the high of the day. So you heard people all day today saying, "Oh, Tesla's down 5%." It's just look back a little bit. It's really where it was at like 3 o'clock, on Friday. So don't get overexcited about people putting these things out, writing articles about how much it's down for the day. It's really not down that much. Not to say like I'm heavily positioned in Tesla. I'm not right now, but just put things in perspective. So that's just my 2 cents on Tesla. Let's look at a couple of these charts, right? So Apple was the big news at the end of the day, and you can see it's still going up here a bit, and up to 129. So yeah, so take a look at this. I mean, Apple, you're talking about a company that you get a catalyst going, and it kind of changes things a little bit. So I like the chart in Apple. It punched out on top of value, so out of the range, and looking strong here. So a few other names that went absolutely berserk today. Possibly related to this and to some other things, but this VLDR, which makes sensors. It's funny. I was giving we do the Q&A session. We have them a few days a week, right? So when members can kind of come in, I always give my quick market spiel for like 5 or 10 minutes whenever we do these Q&A sessions Monday and Wednesday, and then we do a look ahead on Friday, looking past the week. And we were doing that at 1 o'clock today, and I'm like, hey, that's just a couple times I've seen VLDR, and I had to get my head around. I traded this name a few weeks ago on this move, right? And I sold it on this day. So, here's another example. A name punches out of the value area, right? Out of the range. And, I took advantage of this on this day. Same thing. There was call buyers alerting us to what was going on in this name, pre-positioning all in here. And I took this thing off in here and notice how it's kind of consolidated in. And when I saw this earlier today, right, and I think I put this in here as one of our setups for the day. I said I went over this in the Q&A session. Here it is. I put it on. I put it on Twitter as well, which I always put stuff on Twitter later than what I do in the room. Right. My priority is to put the setups in the room first and to talk about them, and then afterwards I'll put them on Twitter. But yeah. So I put this trade on while we were giving the Q&A session, and this was right at 1:30, right? And then I took this thing off. I mean, so that's the beauty of this type of market right now is, you could do a little bit of day trading, which is nice. If you're feeling like this market is getting overheated, clearly we just had a dip today, but these dips are getting bought very quickly, and some names don't look like they had any correction whatsoever. Right, so very strong. My upside target the whole time was this VPOC, so I think this thing is still going after hours. Another one, CBAT, right, which we talked about in the room. A couple traders played, lower price stock, right, and these names are just flying, some of them. So this thing printed 637 here after hours. So people start talking about this on Twitter, these names on Twitter, and again, they are penny stocks. They're flying. QS is another one, printed 100 I believe after hours, but what a move in this thing. I keep calling it Quantum Solace. It's called QuantumScape, but that's the James Bond movie. But up to 100, so the momentum just continues, right? And for now, my thought is that we can continue to kind of see this, rotation into some things. I'm watching the semiconductors now. We'll see if some of these, which have rested a little bit. I've been a long time on semiconductors since I think the beginning of last week. It hasn't done anything, but this looks interesting to me. Another one to kind of think about as they talk more and more about autos and so forth is AMBA. Remember, AMBA had good earnings, went nuts, after earnings. Look at it consolidate again. So this is another one I don't have a position on in this one. Just kind of just watching and seeing what's going on with this one. And then of course LAZR, which is another one. This was on our weekly watch list. Up 27%. So. It's one of those things where while the momentum is still here in the market, it's really tough to kind of back away and say that you're going to move more and more into cash. But that's really, I think a lesson of the day, which I want to get to. So while we're continuing to find these setups and capitalize on them, one of the things that I want to talk about too is if you were caught off guard a little bit today, right? If you came in today and you were grasping for air a little bit because the market was down 2%, it's probably one of two things. And these are usually the recipes where people get hurt, is you either have too many trades on, or you've just got too much risk in the market. So what's great about this market, I've said it before, I'll say it again, it's giving you these get out of free jail cards, right? So if you make a few mistakes in here, what's nice about this market right now, we don't know when it changes, is that it's letting you, get out of mistakes. The main thing, so that's a great place to be, right? Write it down. If you keep a trading journal or something like that. For me, I talked about this in the Q&A session. I make a lot of my decisions regarding risk while the market is closed, right? When the numbers are not bouncing around and so forth, is when I tend to kind of make my decisions. When I was going over, I do a lot of analysis over the weekend. Members get two videos. They get a macro video. They also get a watch list video, which again, the watch list looks, here's our watch list so far for the week. It's doing good. Again, this LAZR is skewing things, and I could not get into this position in this watch list trade. The system that I use would not take it, so which is a big bummer on the day. But Fever did very well today. FVRR. This was a name that we talked about on Friday, so that worked pretty well. However, right. So my decision this week was, be mindful of risk right now going into the year end. And so what I did today was I said, hey, I feel comfortable with reducing some risk, and that's kind of what I did into today's. I got lucky too a little bit because I was able to. If we go to the trades channel, I was able to take some things off, right in the beginning of the day. I got a target in SE, I got a target in U, I got a target in Hubs, which was the one that I just put out on Friday too. And U is the one that I reestablished. I like this name. It's another high momentum name. This is another one that closed on the highs today, up 4.8%. So there's a lot of these opportunities. So just make sure, and again, I'm not giving any advice or recommendations, anything like that, but just make sure that if you were hurting really bad this morning and worried, then like I said, you either have too much on, too much exposure on, or just too many positions. So I followed what I preached, because I did say in the macro video on Sunday, my conclusion was I think for me it's the right time to kind of pare down a little bit of risk, and I did that. I got out of some things like RKT. I got out of NVTA, which was a new position I put on at the end of the week, and I got out of Fastly too. Again, nothing wrong with any of these positions. It's just a question of how much do you want to be exposed to at this point. I would rather be a little bit more nimble after the run that we've had. Again, I'm not taking off all my positions. I took off a couple things that I took off XME, which is a small position that, again, it's a loser, right? I know nobody has losers on Twitter, but there's going to be from time to time that I'm going to take a couple things off that I just think need to be taken off. All right, RMG. This is a really nice one. I actually made this into a covered call position. Right, I sold January 30s, and the calls barely even moved today. So the short calls that I had, I took them off. I bought them back because they were basically right where I sold them at. So and I established this position when the stock was at $17. So I took that off. Right, so covered the short call. 235. I sold them at, so fine. I'll take a 10-cent loss on this. Look at what I made on the stock, right? So really nice one on this RMG. All right, a couple other just some trade setups. I bailed on this LI today. So again, why did I bail on this trade today? Well, it looks fine. It's a nice technical setup because I've got to balance what I want to carry and risk right now, right? And this was one that I decided to kind of cut at the end of the day. I like this setup too in Anaplan, right? Another name that had good earnings, gapped up on earnings, and it's just been consolidating here. I think this one resolves higher too, right? So that's the beauty again of this market, and I'll leave it there, right? There's plenty of other things to kind of talk about for the day, but P&L in my trading account is at year highs. If you're the same way too, congratulations to you. This has been a really really fun last few months to trade. It's been a good year to trade despite everything else that's going on in the world, and I hope everybody stays safe. And yeah, and I would say just remember how you kind of came into the day and make those adjustments when you don't have to, right? It's a beautiful thing too to kind of make some of these adjustments when you're in a good spot, right? Rather than oh no, I've got too much exposure on. Watch out, I'm in big trouble, right? Though you don't want to get yourself into those positions, right? And get the big word that I think is complacent, right? I think that there's a lot of complacency out there. So now, could this market? So again, I'll leave it there because anything could happen. I'm not a crystal ball reader, right? I'm not you know I'm not making predictions, but you have to do what's right for you in terms of your trading. This Microsoft had a nice day today too. This punched out again a name that we talked about last week. This was actually my chart of the day going into today. So all right, guys, I'll leave it there. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.